Hello, welcome to the show. I am Charles Wood, your host.
And I'm Shimem K. Matovu.
Now, for a long time, Uganda has struggled to attract long-term financing, to support long-term investments. Now, Shamim, it gets even harder if these projects are agriculture in nature.
And of course, now we see international players like the World Bank, who recently had an engagement with the agribusiness players to tackle this same challenge.
The agricultural sector we all know how important it is to Uganda. I mean, it employs 72% of Ugandans, but 31% of exports. So we need to work towards bringing this 31% higher. You can see that there's definitely an imbalance there. If you're employing 72, then you should be able to exploit 72%. But it also contributes 23% to GDP. So that also shows that there's something and more work needs to be done. However, the share of lending to agriculture also stands at only 13%. That also shows that we need to work harder in this sector. With only half of agriculture SMEs, only a small fraction of smallholder farmers accessing credit. And we all know how important the smallholder farmers are as far as agriculture is concerned. In this context, the agri-finance team will be partnering with government, private sector, and farmer groups with key focus on support for warehouse receipt development. As a separate work stream, the agri-finance team will also partner with stakeholders to explore opportunities for inclusive value chain financing arrangements in sectors as grain, coffee, tea, horticulture, and dairy. IFC recently carried out a country private sector diagnostic, and it did identify maize and dairy as major crop and the dairy that would spur growth in the economy as far as the agriculture sector is concerned. So we are on the right track as far as the economy is concerned. Warehouse receipt systems have served to expand access to post-harvest services, quality control, storage, finance. As we all know, access to finance has been one of the issues in this sector. And markets for actors along agricultural value chains, including the small scale and marginalized among them, like smallholder farmers and MSMEs. This helps to address pressing challenges facing the country, like reducing high levels of post-harvest loss, improving food safety. From a humanitarian point of view, what kind of food are we giving our children? Because we all know in the schools, maize is what is served to our children in school. And if the aflatoxin levels are that high, like we have been told, then we are doing a disservice, not only to our neighbors, because we export, but to ourselves and to the animals that we feed, which we end up eating anyway. So quality, expanding access to finance for value chain and creating inclusive linkages to domestic and export markets. Warehouse receipts are bankable documents of title to the stored commodity. Financial institutions may accept warehouse receipts pledged by depositors as secure collateral when issuing credit. This helps value chain actors obtain alternative forms of collateral when their access to traditional collaterals such as land and fixed assets may be constrained. Linked to its global warehouse finance program, as you all know, IFC is a global institution. It's the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. And our focus is mainly to create markets within the private sector. The World Bank works with the government, and as IFC, we focus on the private sector. When we work with government, the work that we do is still to open up blockages within the private sector. If it's legal, regulatory reforms, we recently worked with government of Uganda on business licensing reforms. So it's a global institution, and IFC has over a decade of experience supporting warehouse receipts development across Africa and worldwide. IFC offers advisory services to support the readiness of regulatory authorities and other stakeholders. Of particular note, IFC has developed a comprehensive capacity building tool known as the Agribusiness Leadership Program for strengthening farmer organizations linked to globally recognized evaluation and scoring methodology. This includes key modules in which warehouse receipt readiness is integrated into the full range of farmer organization business processes. IFC can only deploy credit lines, can also deploy credit lines. As you know, I mentioned earlier that we provide investment opportunities. And so I'll just speak a bit more about it. We sometimes use intermediaries. We give financing to banks, or we give directly to private sector companies. So that's why I say that IFC can also deploy credit lines, risk-sharing instruments, and customized advisory services, support to financial institutions looking to expand their warehouse and inventory finance portfolios.
There's no doubt that Uganda is an agro-based economy. We are blessed by nature, but one of our biggest challenges is actually markets for our produce, both domestically and beyond the confines of Uganda.
And tonight we learn of the experience of a Ugandan exporter.
Low value addition and lack of effort towards agro-based manufacturing continues to hurt the country's aspiration of earning more from agriculture.
In the last 5 years, merchandise exports to the world grew from $3.44 billion in 2017 to $4.51 billion in 2021, posting a growth rate of 31%. These products are mainly exported to Europe, Asia, and regional markets. Ladies and gentlemen, it's worth noting that these products are largely traded in their raw form, thus fetch minimum returns for all value actors and government.
Today, as Uganda seeks to tap into the many larger regional markets, like the 90 million people strong Democratic Republic of Congo market, focus is now being placed beyond the country's natural agricultural production advantages, like good soils.
Synergies among value chain actors and relevant institutions, enabling policies and practices, provision of resources and information by government and other actors, engaging at regional, continental, and global level to promote the country's interests.
The effort is being augmented by the need for Uganda to position itself better at tapping into the ever-growing East African regional market, which has in the past 10 years seen the community expand to 7 countries from the original 3.
The region as East Africa now has a population of about 300 million persons. And I think, given our discussion, this puts the discussion into context. 300 million persons. That is a huge potential. And together, we have a GDP of about 240 billion United States dollars. Now, these two, the size of the land that we occupy as a community and our economic power, the GDP, they are the key points that lead our discussion in terms of production and marketing Uganda's products in the community.
This aspiration, however, remains challenged by some actions of community members.
As a region, unfortunately, while we are a society that we call a East African community, we still experience a lot of protectionism. Protectionism where every partner state in the region seems to be competing against the other. Kenya wants to sell to Uganda, Tanzania wants to sell to Uganda, Uganda wants to sell to Tanzania, but each one of us is a bit skeptical of the other. None of us is open enough To say I'm selling to you, I'm also receiving from you. So we tend to apply a lot of protectionism through the prevalence of non-tariff barriers.
All in all, East Africa still provides an over 300 million people strong market, which can only be optimized by the well-organized operators. And for Uganda to optimize its agriculture advantage, value addition remains key.